apprentices, journeyman, and masters. Hey and welcome to today's video. My name is Julian. Today I want to give you a bit of a mindset idea that could really help you in whatever you're doing, be it investing, be it business, and whatever. It's this concept of the different stages that you are in the subject. You're either an apprentice, a complete noob, a beginner. You are a journeyman. You're somewhere in the middle, and then at some point you may become a master. Now, why is this relevant? Many people in whatever stage they're in, they generally, when they try to improve, they want to learn from the step that's above them, right? So someone that's completely new, that, hasn't even touched the subject yet, needs to kind of understand how to get in there. So they need to learn from apprentices. Apprentices want to learn from journeyman because that's basically the next step. And then journeyman want to learn from masters. And masters, most of the time, they kind of set the stage. They do learn a bit from each other, but on the other hand, many masters, if you are really creative and you can come up with things yourself, you don't really need anyone else. You understand the subject that well. Now, why is this so relevant? Well, first of all, you need to understand in what stage are you in and what does this mean for you. If you are an apprentice and you're right at the beginning, it doesn't really help you that much to learn from masters because many times they're so far ahead that the subject you're trying to learn from them is quite complex and is quite complicated. At the same time, if you try to kind of communicate to others, maybe you want to make something on YouTube or maybe you want to create a podcast, what's really important at that stage is that you document your journey. You need to explain your move from someone that's not in the field to going into the field. So it's not so much about yet teaching, or it's not about so much explaining. Actually, most of the time, you would make a lot of mistakes. And that's very important in that field. So it's more about documenting, expressing frustrations, kind of expressing your progress. It's so important at that stage. You're probably going to learn from journeyman, and that makes a lot of sense because they are a few steps ahead of you. And so if you keep growing and if you keep learning, you move step by step to become a journeyman. And now suddenly you start to understand that subject. If we talk about cryptocurrencies, for example, well, for the very first time, it's not about you dabbling around and you being completely overwhelmed. You start to understand the terms and you understand how cryptocurrencies actually work and how cryptography works and how money actually works. And you start to understand this. And now what becomes important is a couple of things. Either you want to stay at that level, and going to that level is actually quite straightforward for most people because, you're not a master yet, and that's absolutely fine. So it's quite achievable and quite reachable for most. Now the question is, are you going to stay there or do you want to move forward? If you want to move forward and you really want to understand the subject in depth, you will inevitably have to start teaching a little bit. And the reason is, just like in any craftsmanship, any journeyman that wants to become a master needs to actually teach new apprentices. That's actually one of the requirements. So that is a key concept. And I'm telling you, one of the reasons why close to 5 years ago, I started on YouTube teaching about cryptocurrencies was because I wanted to go from the stage of being a journeyman and to become a master and truly understand cryptography, truly understand money, truly understand game theory and the economics behind it. And I think I would have never gotten this deep understanding of this subject if I hadn't started teaching it to others. And this applies to any field out there. Most people make the mistake that they start teaching on, basically the subject at the apprenticeship stage. And that's too early. If you watch my very early videos, actually the very first one on blockchain and cryptocurrencies, it is really about my skepticism in 2015, how I'm moving into the space, and I'm like, I'm not really sure how solid and how legit this is. So it was really more me kind of sharing and explaining the experience. And it was only in 2016 that I started teaching some of those subjects because it took me an entire year to kind of learn some of the fundamentals. And over this time then, that's what made me a master in cryptocurrencies, understanding cryptography, understanding economics, understand money, understand a lot of these fields simply because, I had to teach it to so many others. The lesson here is not everyone wants to go all the way, and that's absolutely fine. But you need to understand, what do you need to do at each stage? Today, for example, for me as a master, to become like a super master, I would have to dig way more deeper. I would have to kind of exchange way more ideas. And I'm just not doing this. I don't have the time for this. And hence, there will always be people, and that's absolutely fine, who understand any subject in crypto better than me. And I'm completely cool with that. The point here is, you need to always understand what do you need to do at each stage to get to the next stage. And many times people don't reflect honestly what stage they're at, and then they do the wrong thing, and then they get really, really, really frustrated in the entire process. So with this, let me know, where do you see yourself in this? Are you an apprentice? Are you a journeyman? Are you a master already? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know maybe a question you have, or maybe some feedback, some kind of self-reflection. Would love to hear that. If you enjoy this stuff, give me a thumbs up. I know this was not a technical video, but that's absolutely okay, I think, every once in a while. And yeah, subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss anything. I'll see you around for the next one. Yours truly, Julian.